الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بالسنة إلى يوم الدين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings on the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and on all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last day. The topic of this evening, search for inner peace, is a topic which addresses a universal need. This is not something particular to any group of people, any religion, or any race or nation, etc. Human beings as a whole have this need to find inner peace, and they seek to fulfill it through a variety of different ways. From the accumulation of material possessions, which is what modern society promotes as the way for inner peace. If you have enough money, you can have a nice life, you can go on a Caribbean tour or whatever, whatever money is going to bring it for you. Or people try to find it through music. Music changes your mood. When you're down, you have nice songs that put you up and make you feel calm and whatever. Or some people try it through drugs, and so on and so forth. Some people seek it through their careers. As workaholics, they're fully into their careers, trying to find peace through it, a sense of contentment. Others try to find it through their children. When they can't find it for themselves, they try to seek it through their children, that their children would fulfill the dreams that they had for themselves. But the reality is that the majority of people continue throughout their lives with this search and end up in the end of their lives without ever finding the answer. Though Western society presents technology, development, modernization as being the solution, the reality is that 20 million adult Americans suffer from depression yearly. 20 million. Depression being the opposite of inner peace. And in the year 2000, in the US, the death rate from suicides was twice that of AIDS. AIDS is always in the newspaper, we know, people campaigning for AIDS, etc., etc. But people who are committing suicide in America, double the number of those dying from AIDS. And even those who are dying from homicides, people being just shot down, killed, the number of people who die from suicides is greater. So this is telling us something, that this society, that society which is at the peak, all the other countries are trying to follow it in one way or another, looking at it as being the ideal, the technological ideal. The answer isn't there. So if we are to identify really what is the correct route, what is the real way to find that inner peace, we need to know first and foremost what is peace itself. How do we define peace? According to the Webster's New 20th Century Dictionary, peace is defined as freedom from war or civil strife. Freedom from war or civil strife. Well, freedom from war, the world is caught up in one war after another. So that level of peace, we can say, seems virtually unattainable. The second definition, freedom from public disturbance or disorder. Public security, law and order. Public disturbance. This is what? Crime. People breaking into your homes, into your cars, etc. Well, I don't think we're going to find too much peace in that direction. I think it's pretty well gone. There was a time in the past when life was simpler, it was a little more secure. But now, that security is gone. Peace seems elusive from that perspective. The third definition was freedom from disagreements or quarrels, harmony and concord. Well, this relates to families, jobs, etc. Disagreements, we're always involved in disagreements here, there. Everywhere, there are disagreements. So, as we're looking through these definitions, it sort of seems like we can't get peace. The fourth definition, an undisturbed state of mind, an absence of mental conflict, serenity. Sounds like something very attractive, but people try to do it through yoga, through meditation, through a variety of other means. But an undisturbed state of mind, who experiences that? Probably maybe when we go to sleep for a while, we find a little bit of peace. But for the most part, there are so many disturbances in our lives, there seems to be no peace there. And the last definition, given in the Webster's 20th Century Dictionary, was calm, quiet, and tranquility. This comes and goes. There are times of calm, times of quiet, But a continual state, I think nobody experiences that. So that raises the question, is inner peace really attainable? Maybe it's just a fiction, something that we search for, which is something we can't achieve. It's beyond our means. It seems even if we were to reduce ourselves to the lowest possible level, that each one of us spent time in the womb before we came into this world, if we say this world is full of no peace, at least in the womb maybe we found some peace there. Were we in a state of peace in the womb? Or was the baby kicking and pushing? And so it seems even in the womb we were not even at peace. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, I've created human beings in toil and struggle. That it seems we're doomed not to find any peace. That our life is a series of struggles. From the time we're in the womb, we come out, even coming out into this world is a struggle. Some children die in the process. And when you look at a baby, it seems to be struggling as it's growing, trying to walk, falling, crawling. So this world seems to be a world of struggle. There are some brief periods of peace, but to find a period or a state of continual peace, it doesn't seem to exist. The world is a world of opposites. Struggles between the cold we're experiencing now and the heat in the summer. Between good and evil. Between knowledge and ignorance. There seems to be a series of struggles in our lives. Opposites struggling with each other. So, if we assume, though the situation seems to imply that there's no way to achieve that inner peace, if we assume, theoretically, that there must be a way, then it would mean that we would need to remove whatever obstacles that we're finding in life now. We need to remove those obstacles to find that state of peace. So, we need to develop a strategy as to how to remove the obstacles and to find inner peace. The first step is to identify the obstacles. What are the obstacles in our lives to inner peace? What is stopping us from achieving inner peace? We need to identify them, be aware of them, to identify them and to accept them as obstacles. It's important, because if we don't accept them as obstacles, if we deny them, then there's no way to achieve it. If one says, for example, anger is an obstacle to inner peace, because when you get angry, your peace is gone. Whatever peace of mind you had, peace of heart, is gone with your anger. So anger is an enemy. It is an obstacle to inner peace. But if you are saying, yes, it's an obstacle, but I don't get angry, but in fact you get angry, then you're not going to be able to remove that obstacle. So one has to be willing to accept, when one identifies what the obstacles are, they have to be willing to accept them as obstacles so that they can change them. The second step would be to remove the obstacles by some solutions, identify some solutions and remove the obstacles. So that consists of two steps. First we have to identify solutions. After we've identified obstacles, then we identify solutions. Then we have to take steps to apply those solutions to remove the obstacles. Now, when we look at the obstacles in our lives, I just mentioned one, anger. But if we look in terms of our lives as a whole, we can say that there are many obstacles. The main ones tend to be personal problems. Anger is included in there. Family issues, financial dilemmas, work pressures, and spiritual confusion. These seem to be a summary of the main areas of obstacles. But as I said, there's so many. They're like illnesses. We go through so many different illnesses in our lives. We get a cold, get over that cold, another cold comes, we get flu, we get so many different things. To try to deal with each and every obstacle is futile. Too many of them. So instead, it would be better to determine a method, a standard method of dealing with obstacles, which we can apply now to any obstacle we find in our life. The first rule in dealing with obstacles is that those obstacles which we perceive to be beyond our control, we have to leave those aside. Because there's some obstacles that we can change, some issues that we can deal with, we can correct. And then there are others which we can't. They're beyond our control. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, if the jinn and the humans gathered together to benefit you, they could only benefit you with something which Allah had written for you. If the jinn and humans gathered together to benefit you, they could only benefit you with something which Allah has written for you. So there is an element of our lives which is beyond our control. And this is not something, as I said, unique to the Islamic point of view. There is a prayer which is called the Serenity Prayer. Non-Muslims, Christians and others use it. It says, we seek the patience to surrender to the unchangeable. First line. We seek the patience to surrender to the unchangeable. That's the same principle. If you can't surrender to the unchangeable, then you're going to be in turmoil and conflict about things that are beyond your control. So your chances of finding inner peace lost completely. So just the act of submission, surrendering to what is beyond your control, that gives you an element of inner peace. That is part of the contentment that is achievable by surrendering. Since we can't change these issues, then surrender to them. I'm born black in a world where white people are considered better. Can I change being born black? I'm born poor in a world where rich people are treated better. I'm born short in a world where tall people are favored. I'm born crippled in a world where people who are whole have advantages that I don't have. I mean, these are among the things that we can't change. How we're born, how we're created, are beyond our control. So therefore, we have to just surrender to it, accept it. And that will give us an element of inner peace. And Allah, in the Quran addressing this, said, perhaps you may dislike something which is good for you, and you may love something which is harmful to you. This is the reality of this life. What we complain about, what we see as unchangeable, we can't do anything about it, and we think, why me? Why is it this way? But there is good in it that we cannot identify. If God, if Allah has made us in a particular way, has put us in a particular circumstance, then there is good in it. This is part of the surrendering, knowing that God is just. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ahkamul hakimin. He is the most just of anyone who could be just. So there's no reason for us to question God why. Instead, we should say to ourselves, why not? Rather than why, we should tell ourselves, why not? Are we so good as to deserve a wonderful, easy life with no problems, etc.? Or are we making all kinds of mistakes? Are we committing all kinds of sins? So when a calamity strikes us, rather than saying, why God, why me? Tell ourselves, why not? What have I deserved? What have I done to deserve other than this? In fact, God is merciful. It's only a small calamity. Really, I deserve a much bigger calamity because of the way I've been living. So the idea of surrendering to the unchangeable, accepting the destiny, what has happened in our lives, this is the first step to achieving a measure of inner peace. True inner peace in the sense that, hey, no worries, life is going on beautiful, no issues. That is Jannah. That is what we seek at the end of this life. Allah already told us, in this life, we are created in kabad. Struggle. That's reality. That's the unchangeable. Struggle is inevitable. We'll find struggle wherever we turn. But the point is, there is an element of inner peace that we can find, which we can weave in between the struggles, which will keep us on an even keel. It will balance the struggle. Struggle on one side and the peace on the other side, to keep us on an even keel. And this is why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said in another hadith, do not look at those above you who are more fortunate. Instead, look to those below you who are less fortunate. Looking to those above you, again, that will never bring any peace to you. That in fact just drives you through your jealousy, through your desires for what other people have, to never be satisfied. The grass is always greener on the other side. As the Prophet ﷺ said, if the child of Adam is given a valley of gold, he would want another one. Never satisfied. Alhaakumut takathur. Driven by the desire to accumulate of this world whatever we can. And what drives us is looking at others. Somebody always has more than we have. So we'll always be hustling, running, trying to get more. But instead, if we looked at those less fortunate, that can help to settle us down. Hey, it's not so bad after all. There are people, so many people who are far worse off. And no matter how bad our situation is, no doubt there are many people in this world far worse off than we. So, accept, surrender to the unchangeable. The second point of the Serenity Prayer is spiritual strength to change the changeable. Spiritual strength to change the changeable. Where does that come from? That comes from turning to God. Turning our affairs over to God. Seeking Allah's guidance in our lives. Putting our trust in Him. That we get the strength to deal with the issues that we can change. The third point in the Serenity Prayer is wisdom to realize the difference between the two. Between the changeable and the unchangeable. Because if we don't have the wisdom, then it's confusion. We'll be struggling with things that we can't change, and we'll be accepting things that we can change. And of course, we'll not achieve peace, any measure of real peace in our lives, if we don't put them in the correct categories. So for the things that we can change, where we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask Him to help us. We have to focus in the things that we can change, first and foremost on where should we focus first? Salah. Okay. What about zakah? What about fasting? Because we're in Ramadan, should we not focus on fasting? In general, what we should focus on is ourselves. Salah is a part of focusing on ourselves, but the general principle is we should focus on ourselves. When Allah said in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. O you believe, save yourselves and your families from the hellfire. Yourself first. It's of no use to be worried about everybody else. Put all of our energies in activities concerning others, and we leave ourselves unsaved. This is a major error on our parts. We cannot make real change that way. Meaning, we can parade down the streets, make demonstrations for Iraq, what is happening in Iraq, and Chechnya, and Kashmir, and all over the Muslim world. We can spend all year long marching for every cause out there. But here in Bradford, our children are going to non-Muslim schools, being destroyed by the society. Drugs, crime, all this is rampant amongst us. In our jails, we have people who are Hafiz Quran. But we're parading down the street for Chechnya, Bosnia, for everybody. But we are not taking care of ourselves. Why? Why do we do that? Because it's easy to parade down the street with placards and make a lot of noise for Chechnya and Kashmir. It's difficult to establish schools for our children. That takes real effort. And our nature is to shy away from real effort. Take the paths of least resistance, what's easy. And of course, we can't make any real change that way. We expend a lot of energy on things which are important, but not the most important. Prioritize. Putting first things first. Where do we begin? We have to begin with self. Second, we have to admit, ultimately, that we are powerless. Without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we cannot change anything. We can identify it, we can desire to change it, but without the help of Allah, of God, we can't change it. That is reality. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. There is no change. لا حول ولا قوة, and no force, no power, إلا بالله, except by the permission of Allah. This is reality. These are the realities that we have to come to grips with if we are serious about achieving inner peace, achieving the necessary changes to produce in our lives inner peace.